Okay, in this lesson we're going to talk about function notation. And function notation utilizes this f of x. And f of x is just y. You were used to seeing problems like y equals mx plus b, where it would have been something like y equals 3x plus 5. And we were supposed to graph it, and we would plug in numbers and do a t-table. And that's basically what we're doing here. What's happening is they're going to tell us to plug something in for x, like down here it says f of 3. What that means is you replace the x with 3. And so what that means is when y, or what is the y value if x is 3. So it's kind of like doing a t-table where I have x and y, and basically I'm just saying, alright, if x is 3, then what would be my y value? And so to find that, all you do is you put 3 for all the x's, and then you'll get a solution here. So let's ignore what I have going on this side example. So what I have going on here is I'm putting 3 in for each one of these x's, and then that's going to rewrite to be 4 times 3 to the third power minus 3 to the second power plus 5, where the two 3's were the things that I replaced. Okay, and then you just work it out to figure out what the y value would be, because this is equal to y, or f of x. Okay, and then I look at the 3 to the third, and that's going to give me 27, and I'm going to still times that by 4, minus 3 squared, which is 9, plus 5. So now I just have to work that out and figure out what 4 times 27 is, and subtract 9 and add 5. So 4 times 27 is 108. Then I subtract 9 and add 5 to that. So if I subtract 9 and then add 5, the final answer is 104. So that is the y value here of 104. So when the x is 3, the y is 104. This is just function notation is just another way of doing the t-charts that I used to do in previous lessons. So f of 3 is 104. Okay, so now it asks me to find f of negative 4. What it means is for me to come back to this problem and put a negative 4 wherever there is an x. So I rewrite the problem to be 4 times negative 4 to the third minus negative 4 squared plus 5. And then I simplify just like I did on the previous problem. So I figure out what negative 4 to the third is, and the answer is negative 64. So it's 4 times negative 64. Now recall that I said in a previous lesson, if I have a negative being raised to an odd power, the answer will be negative, and if I have a negative raised to an even power, the answer will be positive. And that's helpful for this next one, because it says negative 4 squared, so it's going to be minus positive 16, because the negative sign still came down from before, but this 4 turned positive 16, and then I add 5 at the end. So now I further simplify by multiplying 4 times negative 64, and that gives me 256, and then I subtract 16 and add 5. I'm sorry, that's a negative 256. Subtract 16, add 5, and if I do that I should get a negative 267. So that is your answer for f of negative 4. The answer is negative 267. So again, as you're working through this, just make sure that you, when you take your negative 4 to the third power, you get a negative 64, and that gives you your negative 256. And when you combine over here on the 4 squared, negative 4 squared, you get a positive 16, which had a minus sign out in front, and you bring that down. And so you have your negative 256 minus a negative, which means you really add those, and then add 5. Okay? So the process here is, again, whatever the number they give you, f of whatever, okay, this is just a number that you plug in to the equation. wherever there is an x value. So now in these next problems, it says we're going to be adding and subtracting functions. Now notice I got lots of examples here. Okay, there's 5 different problems. Each time they tell us to find something new. This first one says find f minus g of x. Well, they give us an f equation and they give us a g equation. Now f of x and g of x both technically mean y, it's just there's 2 different equations, so we're not calling them both y, otherwise it'd be too confusing. So what we do when it says find f minus g of x, it means basically just take the f of x equation and subtract the g of x equation, and then combine like terms. Okay, we already did that on the last lesson. So I take my x squared minus 3x plus 7, which is my f of x equation, and I subtract my g of x equation. Now, the only thing to be careful of here is you need parentheses because you're going to have to distribute the subtraction sign to my negative 3x squared minus 7x plus 7. And then I distribute like I did in the last lesson on combining like terms, and that's going to give me, just going to rewrite, well, I'll rewrite it, yeah. I got plus 3x squared plus 7x minus 7. And then I bring down the x squared minus 3x plus 7. And now I just combine my like terms. I have x squared, I have 3 more, so this is 4x squared. And then I have negative 3x, and I have positive 7x, so that gives me positive 4x. And then I have positive 7, negative 7, so those cancel. This is my answer, 4x squared plus 4x, for when they ask me to find f minus g of x. So that is your actual answer there. Now, on this next problem, it says find f minus g of 2. Well, I already did the f minus g part. That answer is right here. So this is actually 4x squared plus 4x. What I'm asked to do now, when there's a 2 right here, is they're saying now put a 2 in there. Okay? So I can take this answer that I already found and just put a 2 in it. So that's just 4, so I'll do it down here, times 2 squared plus 4 times 2. And then all you have to do is simplify like I was doing on the last page. So 2 squared is 4, times 4 is 16, plus 4 times 2 is 8. So I just add 16 and 8 and get my final answer of 24. So the answer for this problem, f minus g of 2, is 24. Okay. So now there's actually 2 ways to do it. That was one of the 2 ways. Because I already found this first answer, I just got to use it here. But I don't have to do it that way. I could, if I'm just going to erase everything, I could actually go, it says find f minus g of 2, I can go up into this equation and it's saying find f minus g of 2, I can put and plug in first to each equation 2 and then subtract, and I would still also get the 24. Okay, what I had and then did here was I plugged in 2 into this first equation, plugged in 2 into this second equation, and I got 5 and negative 19. So the f equation was 5, and then it says subtract the g equation, which is negative 19. So that's after I plugged in 2 to both equations. I got 5 and I got negative 19. So all I have to do is subtract those. 5 minus negative 19 means plus 19, and that answer is also 24 like I had before. So if I've already done the work of f minus g of x, which means just subtract the equation, it's easiest to plug in 2 into that answer. But if I haven't done that work, it's pretty quick to just take 2, plug it in for x into all of the x's, and then subtract the 2 answers, the f equation, which was 5, minus the g equation, which was negative 19. So on the next problem, I'll do it that way first, and then I'll come back and do the f plus g of x secondly. So like I was saying before, I can take the 1 and plug it into the f and to the g, and then take my answer at the end and add. So let's go ahead and do that. I'll put a 1 up here, square it, minus 3 times 1 plus 7. And if I work that out, I get 1 minus 3 plus 7. So the answer will be, I get negative 2 plus 7 is 5. Okay, so that first one is 5. Now I do the second one. So I get negative 3 times 1 squared, which is just 1, minus 7 times 1, which will just be 7, plus 7. So the 7's will cancel, and I'll end up with negative 3. So it says 7, so the second one was negative 3. So I just have to add those. That's what I'm being asked to do, 5 plus negative 3. So my answer is going to be 2. And I'll check that once I do my f plus g of x over here off to the side, and I'll plug in at the end, and you'll see that the answer is still 2. Okay, so now I erase to save space, and it says do f plus g of x. So I take my f equation, and I just have to add it to the g equation. Okay, so I just rewrite this to be x squared minus 3x plus 7, and then I have to add negative 3x squared minus 7x plus 7. Now notice I didn't use parentheses here. I could have. I could group them like this with parentheses, but again, like the combining like terms lesson that I gave you, you don't need those parentheses because you're just distributing a plus sign, so you don't really have to write them. So I'll erase. And then now I just have to combine my like terms. So I have x squared and negative 3x squared. I combine those to get me negative 2x squared. And then I have negative 3x, and I have negative 7x, so that's going to give me negative 10x. And then I have two positive 7's, so 7 and 7, and that gives me plus 14. Okay? Now, that's the answer for f plus g, so if I went back and that was the way I did it, if I did that problem first, I would just take, for the second problem, I would add 1 in there. So let me back up and just pause and say, this is my answer for this problem. But if I was to have done this problem, or if I had not done that problem yet, I'm going to get my answer of 2 if I plug in a 1 to this solution that I'm getting right here. So let me erase a little bit. So you can see, what I'll do here is I have my negative 2, I times it by my 1 squared, which is just 1, minus my 10 times 1, which is just 10, and plus 14. And if I work that out, that still gives me 2. So like I said, there's two ways to do it. You could do it where you do this side first and then plug in your number, or you could plug the number into both equations and simplify and get your answer. So there's two ways of doing those problems. Now this bottom problem, down at the very bottom, it says do g minus f. So g minus f, it takes, and I wanted to show this example because you don't always do f first. It could be that you write the g equation first and then do something with f behind it. So all I have to do is rewrite, or understand they're asking me to do the g of x, and subtract the f of x. So I just take the g equation, write it first, so it's just negative 3x squared minus 7x plus 7, and I subtract, and when I subtract I should do parentheses of x squared minus 3x plus 7. And the reason again I wrote parentheses is because I need to distribute this negative sign, and it changes all those second signs. And so then that will rewrite to be negative 3x squared minus 7x plus 7, and then it's going to be negative x squared plus 3x minus 7. So now I just simplify by combining my like terms, and I have negative 3x squared and negative x squared, so that's going to give me negative 4x squared. And then I have negative 7x, positive 3x, and that gives me negative 4x. And then finally I still have plus 7 and negative 7, so those cross out, and so this is my answer for f minus g of x.